Hello, here is another narrated video of one of my art pieces, and this, as you can probably see from the silhouette and at the very early stages of it, is going to be a tree, simply a tree, which is unusual for me, and in fact it's something I've been doing recently regarding doing more landscapes. Usually I go for character type portraits, but this time I'm branching out, let's say. Ha 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 ha. Anyway, let's get on. This is using Infinite Painter, and this is my process at the moment, using Infinite Painter on a Samsung tablet to lay down all the initial blocks and all the ideas and getting the composition right. And here we go. As you can see, the tree, laying down very simple colours and just getting some detail in, playing around with different brushes. As you can see, the initial one was quite soft, and then I was just playing around with more textured brushes and trying to get some texture on the tree. There I applied a filter to change the contrast, because I always like to start off pretty dark overall. And I'll be using a few different layers here as well. I'm playing around with layers, one at the back for all the sky and everything like that, and then one for the trees. And just laying in some ideas, playing around. This is what it is. I wanted to get a bit more contrast in there, so I wanted to add in a bit of dark. Putting some really saturated colours here, because the sun is coming from the back, as you can tell by the shadow there. The sun is coming from the back, and I wanted to get the sense of really a saturated sun coming through, because I think that would look pretty cool. So trying to get the grass down, adding in detail there. Again, it's still very, very loose at the moment. Trying some slightly different textured brushes to get the idea overall. And then in the shadows, as you can see, I've got some cooler shapes in there overall, and some almost stones that I've decided. There I've added on a texture over the top, as you can see, and then vignetted to pull the effect to look in the center. And imported it now into ArtRage, where the first thing I'll do is just to start tidying things up, getting the branches to look a bit more coherent. And now I'm using the oil brush on quite a hard level of stiffness with a lot of thinners in this case, because I didn't want to overwhelm, and this is on a separate layer at 50% opacity. I didn't want to with the foliage, I didn't want to overwhelm the tree overall. I wanted to some level of transparency. And as you can see, it's more of an autumnal look. I was looking for a nice deep brown colour. And applying another layer to add in a bit of texture. What I want is, I want a bit more texture on the tree. This is my idea. I haven't quite got it yet. And the tree needs a bit more work regarding how the light will filter through. And as you can see here, I am using the pastel, and the reason for this is that on this layer over here, I will have set that layer up to use a texture as the canvas. You can set individual textures for each layer, and once I have that one set, and I would have used a picture from a texture picture I've got from my camera, I then tend to use, because the pastel will take the tooth of the canvas much better than any other tool in ArtRage, then this enables me to add in texture. As you can see here, just that swipe down there that I've done, just added in an extra nice, it's a very easy way, rather than going in and just adding in all the fine detail for something like a tree, is just to add a canvas texture layer and then just smooth over like quite a soft pastel over the top to give that effect. And I'm playing with some contrast here with quite a dark colour. And just having a bit of fun really with all the textures. And as you can see here, I have only got 2 layers, which is my general thing. This would be a layer of textures which I'm playing around with, which as I'm adding to the overall picture and trying to add textures, it's handy to have it in a separate layer because I can just change the opacity or maybe even the blend mode. It's actually not a million miles away. It's not a million miles away from what I would really want regarding it. I just need to get the balance right with all the colours, the textures and the light coming through. I like the look of the light as it comes through from behind the tree and the way the shadow comes through and is quite nice and cool. You get a sense of the presence of it. And here I'm just playing around with overlaying just a standard ray of light coming in because I thought that just to emphasize where the light is coming from might look quite good, but I don't want to overdo it. I want to still make it look quite subtle. So I would have imported this into a layer. I would have set it to screen so all the black will be masked away, and then just dialing it down a little bit using the airbrush set to quite a light color just to take out all these white parts. And here I'm really playing around with more and more texture. Again, I'm using this canvas texture layer with the pastel to just play around with the contrast in the darks because I think I just wanted to add a bit more in there. And trying in another light to see whether that would work, a slightly different one. Again, changing the opacity to see whether that would work. And there we go. This one didn't take too long and I got the effect that I wanted overall. I got the overall focal point, which is a tree with all the textures in all the branches, and I got the light coming from behind with the saturated colours regarding the grass and yeah, that was something completely different from what I usually do. My idea really was to go texture crazy with this and really experiment a lot and just to see what would happen. Okay, there we go. That's my narration over this tree time-lapse video.